Welcome to CROSSTALK. Today we'll be discussing water resources management in Central Asia, with focus on Uzbekistan. Our guest today is Kail Padgitt, the Director for USAID Uzbekistan Economic Growth and Environment Office. Dr. Padgitt is a PhD in economics and has 20 years of experience in developing and implementing water resources management programs around the world. Hello, Dr. Padgitt. It's really nice to see you here. Welcome.
Thank you so much for having me.
So, Dr. Padgitt, let's move to the first question. What are the biggest challenges and opportunities to water resources management in Central Asia?
Sure. I see two major challenges right now for Central Asia. One has been around for centuries, which is water scarcity. Central Asia is a very arid or semi-arid region, and actually one of the most water scarce regions in the world. This issue has been long-standing within the region. On top of that now, we're layering the issue of climate change. Climate change through unpredictable rainfalls, increased temperature, and glacial melting is putting even more stress on that already water scarce level. So we have these two kind of compounding issues, but those also create opportunities. Central Asia has the opportunity to now lead and also benefit from the example of the international community on innovative uses of technology to help conserve water resources. So that would be the first level. The second level of that would be to look to larger regional collaboration within Central Asia to help mitigate some of these issues around water scarcity and climate change, and look to how to develop their ecosystems better to help manage climate change as it kind of carries forward in the coming years.
Thank you, Dr. Padgitt. So this brings me to the second question. What are some specific water challenges facing Uzbekistan?
Sure. I think we take those ones that we just talked about for the region and actually maybe add them to be a little bit worse, right? Uzbekistan tends to be a little more water scarce than even some of the other countries within the region. Only about 10% of the land is arable. The rest is, the viewers and is mostly desert and mountains. That arable land is mostly around the valleys and the water basins. So we already take water scarcity and we raise it up a level. We take climate change and put that on top of it. And then I think for Uzbekistan, which makes this incredibly difficult, is the fact that 80% of the water that Uzbekistan uses is actually an inflow from other countries within the region. So there's very little water, only about 20% comes through kind of rainfall within Uzbekistan. So you are reliant upon the region for your water, which has to mean that you need to have excellent cooperation, collaboration across the region for the water that you use.
What measures Uzbekistan is taking to address these issues?
Sure. I think, Uzbekistan has taken a very broad approach to this, which I think is very commendable. You see a number of different initiatives kind of ongoing, things like diversification of crops. You think of new agricultural technologies being used. You think of, this initiative to plant 1 billion trees in the country over 5 years is incredible. So these sorts of things are all being done. I think two that also should be mentioned are what kind of brought us here today to talk. One is an excellent public awareness campaign. I think more Uzbeks are becoming aware of water scarcity and climate change as impacting not only their economy, but impacting their lives and their health. So that's one, and I think that also is the work that Uzbekistan has done to reach out to the international community to bring in expertise and bring in groups like USAID to help support them on this important work that the country's begun. And so that kind of brings us together as well, right? This public awareness and this reach out to the international community as well.
What role does USAID play in supporting water resources management in Uzbekistan?
USAID plays a kind of a pivotal role within the larger U.S. government's support for Uzbekistan on kind of water resource management, and also on a whole host of other activities. We have offices that work on things like supporting the education system, supporting democracy and governance, and supporting the environment, economic growth, and also health as well. So, one of the things we really try to do is address some of those kind of environmental issues as they arise. So the RLC is kind of a cautionary tale for the rest of the world when it comes to water resource management. 70 years of kind of water extraction and this kind of winner-take-all approach to water management has led to kind of this environmental catastrophe that's taken place. USAID, through our environmental restoration of the aerial sea activity, is actually trying to pilot new technologies and techniques and methodology to help restore the ecosystem, which is actually bringing economic benefit as well as health benefits to the communities that have been affected by this. In addition to that, we have another activity, which is our water and vulnerable environments activity. This activity is really looking at developing a new cadre, a new group of young experts within Uzbekistan that are trained on kind of water resource management that can take work forward. Addition to that, we realize, as we were talking earlier, that this is not just a Uzbekistan issue. This is going to require regional collaboration. So we're putting in place those tools to allow and foster better regional collaboration among entities as well.
So there are two projects in water resource management that is USAID?
Yes, we have two kind of areas that we're directly working on in water resource management. One of those activities is directly related to the aerial sea restoration, and another is around this idea of kind of water and vulnerable environments, to develop kind of more collaboration, not only within Uzbekistan, which we are working on, but also kind of in this broader region. And I think this touches on one of the things that is really a goal of the United States government overall, which is to foster this collaboration. So we have what's called the C5+1, which is the every country in Central Asia, the 5 countries of Central Asia, plus the United States, have formed an organizational body to help bring about better regional integration, not only on environmental issues and water issues, but on trade and security as well. And in fact, President Biden will be meeting with the heads of all of the Central Asian countries this week for the United Nations General Assembly to talk about these issues and further this collaboration. So you can see that USAID is working on a piece, but we have a larger U.S. government push to work on all of these issues.
And the water must be number one point in the agenda.
Water is very, very important to us, I think. Yeah, it's one of the things we're very much supporting the region on.
Thank you. So my next question is, what are the most promising new technologies for water resources management in Central Asia? Is it drip irrigation? Is it sprinklers?
Sure. And I like the way you kind of phrase that as technologies, because it's not just going to be kind of one technology. I don't think we'll find kind of that one thing that will solve this issue, right? We know that water scarcity has a multitude of causes, and thus we're going to need a multitude of solutions to get there. And so I think that's really where we need to be aiming. It's not to look at one thing, but look at multiple things. Now, one of the things we do know is that 90% of the water consumed in Uzbekistan is going towards agriculture. Yes. So that's probably a pretty good place for us to start when we look at technologies. And there are a lot. I think, as you kind of mentioned, this, precision kind of agricultural techniques are really at the forefront when it comes to mind. So, looking at things like, soil moisture testing, I think looking at crop-specific irrigation techniques, as well as a whole host of others around that are really kind of important. The EU has an interesting initiative right now that they're rolling out in Uzbekistan called Smart Sticks, which is able to measure the water that's being individually feeded out through irrigation systems to farmers. And this is obviously benefiting, in terms of getting the farmers the water they need, but also in helping them grow more, but also in kind of, that potential for conflict over scarce water resources. It's lowering that as well. Yeah. I would point out to one that might not come to mind, which is the satchel tree. The satchel tree, this is kind of a small bush, almost a tree that grows out, and it does really well in arid lands and really good in hot temperatures. Now, doesn't sound like a technological invention, right? But really, I think that I can make the case that it is. And so this is one of the ways that we're piloting a project with aerial sea restoration. So we realize that afforestation, or developing more of the forest around there, is going to help prevent the desert from growing. And so we need something that will work out there. And so we've identified this tree, as have others within the international community, as a potential. So what we're doing is we're piloting a program to plant different parcels of these satchel trees in different areas, and we're testing different ways to plant, different ways to irrigate, different things to add into the soil before we plant, all in the hopes of getting the satchel tree to be more productive and have a higher survival rate out there. So I think we're using technology to do that. And in fact, We've even established meteorological stations that are monitoring the weather and monitoring all of this to help feed into this. So it really is even something that doesn't seem like a technological invention, like just planting these trees, actually has a lot of technology and innovation behind it.
It does. I agree. Yeah. Thank you. So by the end of the project, so how many treys
Sure. So
going to be planted?
So this is, I think by the end of the project, we're hoping to plant about 200,000 trees, in Uzbekistan and in Kazakhstan, obviously, because they're LC borders both. And then this is obviously not only feeding directly into this goal for 1 billion trees in a modest way, but the whole idea is to, develop a solution and develop that so it can be scaled up and done at scale as well with maximum success rate. We don't want to plant trees that aren't going to do well. We want to have them be the most effective tree that we can.
Yeah. Most important to show that it works.
Exactly.
People will catch up.
Yeah, exactly. I think there's what we would call kind of a demonstrative effect.
Yes.
We can lead and prove the technology works, and then it can be taken forward from there.
Yeah. Thank you. So how can we ensure that water resources are managed in more sustainable and equitable way in Central Asia?
I think this is, one of the things we really want to be pushing on is kind of an integrated water resource management idea, is that water resources need to be managed not just at kind of one individual thing. We want to look at it through, from, rivers to groundwater to, water recycling and water quality overall. So it has to be this kind of holistic approach. In addition to that, you want to take and you want to be looking at it in terms of all of the uses of water as well. So it's got to be this kind of holistic approach that kind of brings all of those aspects together is really the only way that you're going to get at this. This is kind of a systems approach to water resource management, not these kind of individualized things.
Thank you. So could you give a little bit more information about this exact approach, because it's a really new approach, our country.
Yeah.
Maybe some of the specialists will watch this program and they might want to know more.
Sure, absolutely. So yeah, I think that this integrated water resource management approach that we're kind of pushing and working with others to kind of take on is really an idea that we're going to look at kind of all of the effects of water, all of the uses of water in its holistic kind of nature. And so this is something that we often kind of, you refer to sometimes seen as this water, energy, food, and environment nexus.
Yes.
So it's this bringing all three of those, because those are kind of these three large consumers of water, uses of water, and bringing those into an idea that we can understand how each one of those is working and also how they're impacting the others. Yeah. So, this is one initiative that I think is really interesting in how we're working on this, is to develop these within Uzbekistan, kind of these national intersectoral committees. And so this intersectoral committee is bringing together different ministries within the Uzbek government that have different stakes in this issue. So, it's not just kind of your water ministry, it's not just your environment or ecology ministry, it's not just your energy, it's not just your ag. All of these are affecting water and need to have come together to work out this solution. Now, what is going to happen is we're going to bring these all together in this intersectoral committee, and then they're developing the recommendations that are going to feed up into this regional coordinating committee that actually is of all the countries in the region come together to present these and develop more holistic plans as a region. So you can see that it's starting from kind of even this, it starts from a very regional level, builds to a national, and then builds up to this kind of Central Asia more holistic approach that we're pioneering. And I'm really actually excited. So I'll be able to attend just even next week in Hiva. We're having another meeting of this regional coordinating committee, bringing together all of the committees, their intersectoral committees from the 5 countries together.
That's interesting.
And so I'm really excited to be attending that one, and that's happening just next week.
So Dr. Padgitt, that's really good answer. Thank you. So you almost answered to the next question, which is how water management can be integrated into agriculture and energy.
one of the ways that we're looking at the ag sector, and I think this really is, obviously as a huge consumer of water, is the potential to do a lot more there. And so one of the ways we look at that is through not only crop diversification, looking to expand the different crops and maybe move away from the more water-intensive crops to other crops, but also move up the value chain so that more of the production, packaging is being done in Uzbekistan, so more of that value is being kept within the country. So we're creating more value and at the same time using less water as well. So I think those are some of the ways we look at doing this.
Yes. By economizing the energy, we economize the water, yes. So this brings me to another important question. What role can climate change adaptation play in water resources management in Central Asia?
Climate change adaptation is going to be critical as we move forward. Climate change is here. It is a part of our lives now and will be a part of our lives as we move forward. And we need to adapt to that. I think one of the best ways is to look at the ecosystems and restoration of the ecosystem. So, work on the Aral Sea has a huge number of benefits in terms of reforestation. Those are benefits through, increasing the economic benefits to the house. Also, those areas will act as a buffer and kind of put in more resilient environments to mitigate some of those effects of climate change, right? We know that those forestation will prevent desertification. It will also improve water quality as well. So we need to be really pushing largely towards that. I think too, another thing is that we're going to have to develop adaptive management strategies for this as we move forward. We know that the water is going to come at different rates. We've seen this now, for several years. We know that waterfall has changed, which means we're going to have to be able to adapt in how we use water over time. And this happens, so we're going to have to do this through as we mentioned, diversification of crops, crops that can do better, kind of with this intermittent rainfall. Things like that are all going to have to be part of this. But it is going to have to be an adaptive approach and a learning approach so that as we gain more information, we can adjust. I think, one of the good things about this is that, sadly, we are all in this together. I think that, one of the things I would highlight about this is that, lessons being learned in Uzbekistan by Uzbeks are just as relevant to Americans as well, as we are suffering through these same issues together. And I think this will be an iterative learning process for both of us. And I think this is why knowledge sharing is going to be so critical as we move forward.
Yes. Particles of that salt, taken by wind from the Aral Sea was found in like Europe, Paris, or for example. We're all in the same boat.
Yeah.
Very good. Thank you, Dr. Padgitt. So my last question is, what recommendations would you give to the young people who would like to be in this water sector, water resources management sector?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think one of the best ways is education. It's really important that you understand the technical aspects of this. This is a very technical field that needs to be done. And I'm really happy to say that we're here to help. We're trying to support this as much as we can. So USAID, we've hosted debate competitions, we've hosted essay competitions at the graduate and undergraduate levels. As well as we're looking for ways we've done curriculum development to push kind of new curriculum into the universities and schools, curriculum right along this line, this kind of integrated water resource management techniques as well. So I think that in addition to education, try to gain as much kind of practical knowledge as possible. And my final piece of advice is really a little bit personal. It's just to kind of basically be patient, but also persistent. These are long-term issues, and we are going to need to work at them for the next 10, the next 15, the next 20, 30 years. These are going to be long-term issues. But we also need to be persistent. We need to be working day in and day out to make this better as well. And it's that combination of this patience and persistence that will be really important as we move forward on this.
Thank you, Dr. Padgitt. We really appreciate you and your team's time and effort putting to implement this project in Uzbekistan, and we really hope, we really believe that this project will bear fruits.
Thank you so much.